Yes, we are bike. Yes, Lord. We are bike. Most Valuable Podcast, episode 63. I am your host, Cinco Man's the Man, trying to get $100 grand, and I can't do it without you, and you, and you. Yes, we are bike. We in this thing, man, to win this thing, man. You feel me? Alright. Without further ado, you know what we here for. It was a vicious. We on to something more political. It was a vicious debate that just happened. You know what I'm saying? Versus Senator Ted Cruz and a well-known divine reporter, Fox reporter named Tucker Carlson. He's highly favored towards the right, and the other one is highly favored towards the left. So, but for the most part, they were just speaking on, you know, the situation that's going on with Iran and Israel, and just plain knowledge on the situation. So, we are going to tap into this because it's something that's very important in the world today, and I could cover. See, the thing about my podcast, I can cover whatever I want. I don't have to be stuck with hip hop, and I do news, real news, politics, whatever's going on. I speak about it. We speak about it. We're very knowledgeable over here on this channel, y'all. That's one thing. We will be very knowledgeable on more than just the streets. That's how we gonna call it. We gonna do it like that. On more than just the streets. Hold on. That's my head. Alright. Here we go.
Senator, thank you very much for spending the time to have this conversation.
It's good to be with you.
So you've come out for regime change in Iran, as distinct just from taking out the nuclear sites. What does regime change look like in Iran?
Somebody else in charge.
How do you get there?
Look, that ultimately has to be a popular uprising from the people. And it's not a complicated question. Is America better off with a country that has a leader who hates us and wants to kill us, or to have a country with a leader who likes us and wants to be friends with us? And
Definitely the latter is better.
Of course.
Yeah.
And so that's not a complicated statement. Look, I believe you look across the world when you have countries that have dictators that are viciously anti-America. Venezuela, Maduro hates us. Would we be better off with Maduro out of power? Absolutely. I want our enemies out of power, and I want our friends in power.
I could not agree more. The question is, how do you get there?
Of course.
And we've been trying to kill Maduro for quite some time. We have troops there.
I don't know that we've been trying to kill Maduro.
We have. And I think you know that. And
I don't know that.
Okay, well, as a statement of fact, we have. So
we do have massive sanctions.
One thing, if it doesn't fit their agenda, they won't want you in there. They're gonna get you out of there. They're going to get you out of there. You know what I'm saying? Get her out of there.
We tried to pressure him out of office.
Yeah,
I'm
there's all kinds
not
of
aware
stuff.
of efforts.
I'm just saying there's a lot of pressure coming from various parts of the U.S. government on that government, and it's still there.
Yeah.
Same, the country of our ancestors, Cuba, 1959, we've been working on that, hasn't worked. So it's I think we both agree it's hard to do.
It absolutely is hard. And look, I think you're reasonable to ask, how do we produce that? And I think there's a distinction between what your objective is and the means to get it. There are all sorts of things I would say we would be better off. We'd be better off in China without Xi there. Should we invade China and topple Xi? Of course not.
Better off with no national debt.
There are lots of things.
Totally.
But it's good to say, all right, what are our objectives?
Right.
And so with the Ayatollah in Iran, saying you're for regime change, I don't view as complicated. I mean, the guy literally leads mobs chanting death to America. So that's not good.
Definitely not good. But the reason I think...
And it's not just, they didn't just wake up in the morning and start chanting death to America. It was episodes and issues and history that falls behind that. And it's not just them. Every supreme leader that they get is going to chant that. Their people are bred that way. They don't fuck with America. Same way as Bloods and Crips. When they breeding them, Bloods don't fuck with Crips, Crips don't fuck with Bloods, old school shit. But nowadays it's switched up so you can fuck with around, shit like that. But like, it's just, everything's broken to groups: Republican, Democrats, Sunni, Shiites. Everything is just broke into groups and categories so they can categorize you and place you with a certain group.
I think it's important to get a little more detailed about how that might happen,
Sure.
is because there's military action in progress, which we're supporting. And the president has said clearly, including last night, that he is focused on eliminating the capacity of the Iranian government to produce nuclear weapons. You are saying we need to use military force to affect regime change.
I have not said that.
Oh, I must have.
No, I have not said that once.
Okay.
I don't think we need to use military force to do regime change. I said I support it. I would like to see it happen. You asked me how should it happen? A popular uprising. What I've advocated for. All right, let's step back a second. You and I, we've known each other a long time. I would say we agree on about 80% of the things on Earth.
For sure.
And there are a lot of things, and we can get into the nitty-gritty of foreign policy as much as you want. There are a lot of things on which you and I agree, not just a little bit, but violently.
I totally agree. I was rooting for you in your last campaign, for sure.
Well, thank you. Look, you have been heroic on the border. You've been one of the clearest and best voices in the whole country on securing the border and on the absolute crisis we're facing. And in Texas, I see it and live it every day. In COVID, in fact, you may recall, in the middle of the COVID lockdown, I was out walking my dog.
He's a Texas senator, you guys.
When the whole world was shut down and we were living in lunatic times. And I called you and said, Tucker, your nightly monologues are the single best thing on television. Like I watch them like an injection of crack. Okay, I'm mixing my metaphor because you don't inject crack, but you get what I'm saying.
Try.
No, I mean, you were standing up and speaking like, what the hell are we doing, in a way that we desperately, desperately needed. And so whether it's securing the border.
You see what he's trying to do right now, y'all. He's trying to cake him up and glaze him up so he don't go as hard on him. He know what Tucker do. Tucker got something in store for you. Friends or no friends, this business.
Whether it's the insanity of COVID lockdowns and the vaccine mandates, whether it is the Second Amendment or the First Amendment, you and I agree on a ton of stuff. The 20% where we disagree, I do think is meaningful. And it's mostly in the foreign policy space. And what I would say, if you'll allow me to get a little theoretical, and then I'm happy to get specific.
Yes.
I ordered 200 hand-forged knives to my dorm room and built a Wix website to sell them.
They always want to cut it off.
For a long time, people had perceived two different poles of Republican foreign policy. There have been interventionists, and those have been people like John McCain and Lindsey Graham and George W. Bush. And there have been isolationists. And the most prominent of those have been Ron Paul and Rand Paul, and there are others. And people perceive those are the two choices. You got to be one or the other. I've always thought both were wrong. I don't agree with either one. The way I view my own foreign policy...
I'm with you, by the way, for whatever it's worth. I agree with you.
Okay, good.
I don't know who set up that binary, but there are lots of choices, actually.
I mean, people sort of naturally fall into, I think they want to classify people, and they're like, okay, you're one or the other, and you got to be all or nothing. And the interventionists, it seems, have never seen a country they didn't want to invade, and that doesn't make any sense to me. And the isolationists, I think, don't take the threats to America seriously, and I think that's naive and it doesn't work. And so my view, I consider myself a third point on the triangle. And what I describe that as is that I am a non-interventionist hawk, which sounds a little weird, but what do I mean by that? I mean the central touch point for U.S. foreign policy and for any question of military intervention should be the vital national security interest of the United States. How does this make America safer? How does this protect Americans? If it does, we should be strong. And actually, another way of conceiving what I'm saying, I'm speaking theoretically, but Reagan referred to it as peace through strength. And actually, I think Donald Trump's foreign policy is very much what I'm describing, a non-interventionist hawk, where he understands that, and I think this is historically true, the best way to avoid war is being strong. That weakness and isolationism, I think, encourages war. Right. So, going back to regime change, where you started in Iran.
So just to make, I don't think I disagree with anything you've said, so we may not be...
Okay, let me speak on that. Example, when Biden was in office, Putin attacked Ukraine, you know, they felt that the U.S. was weak. We had weak leadership. They didn't respect our leadership. A lot of people didn't respect our leadership when good old Sleepy Joe was in. But now that Trump is in, they're showing strength, is what he's saying. And, you know, but it's still fuckery going on, because look at Israel. Israel, as soon as we show strength, Israel want to take advantage of it.
Be that far apart, really, because you said that the single criterion for making decisions about America's foreign policy is America's national interest.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah. Which is also America first. That's another way of putting that as well.
I think it's the definition of it.
Yeah.
It's hardly breaking news that the U.S. dollar has been gravely devalued by Washington money printing. You print money out of thin air and the currency becomes weaker. You can purchase less with the same amount. The entire system is backed by nothing but the government's word. What is that worth? People around the world are beginning to ask. So one of the results of this is that a lot of people want to invest in crypto. Many don't know where to start. That's where I Trust Capital comes in. Their platform makes the crypto game smarter, easier, safer, and you can understand it. With I Trust Capital, you buy and sell crypto inside a tax-advantaged IRA. That means the same long-term tax benefits of a retirement account paired with the freedom to invest in digital assets. They also offer secure non-retirement accounts, use an airtight security system, and have real human beings, experts on call if you ever need them. You just call up and you can talk to them in person. Creating an account is very simple. It takes just a few minutes. Click the link below or visit itrustcapital.com to start today.
The question is, are we watching that now?
So I think we are. And from what you've said publicly, I think on Iran in particular, you and I disagree. And
here we go.
All right, let me contrast it when Obama was president. When Obama was president, you remember he talked about wanting to have military action against Syria.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I tried to keep an open mind to it. I said, okay, let me listen to the commander-in-chief, describe to me how this is in America's interest and what your plan is. And Bashar Assad was a bad guy. He was killing his own citizens, and he had chemical weapons that were very dangerous. I could conceive of a commander-in-chief laying out a plan for, okay, we're going to go in and say, grab the chemical weapons and leave. Like, I could see that if there was a real threat to America and there was a plan to prevent that, I could see supporting that. So I wanted to hear what he had to say. And I listened both in classified briefings and public questioning. And number one, their public defense of it was incoherent. So John Kerry said, we're going to engage in an unbelievably small strike. I think that's a quote. I'm like, okay, and to do what? At the time, there were 9 major rebel Islamic groups in Syria. I'm like, okay, I agree, Bashar Assad's a bad guy. You topple him. And one of the 9 other groups takes over. 7 of them were affiliated with radical Islamic terrorism. You had Al-Qaeda and Al-Nusra. I'm like, wait, how is it better to have lunatics who hate us in charge. Assad's a bad guy, but I don't want worse guys in charge. Obama administration couldn't give an answer to that. And ultimately, when you press them, John Kerry in particular, I pressed, and he would say, well, we need to defend international norms. Like, what the hell's an international norm? I don't know what it is, but I'm not interested in putting U.S. servicemen and women in harm's way to defend one.
Amen.
So I opposed the Syria attack and opposed it vocally. And it was interesting. Rand and I agreed. Rand's a friend of mine. But we agreed with that position for different reasons. What I was asking is I think the question we should ask, how does this make America safer? The Obama administration couldn't give me an answer, so I opposed it. I think Iran is very different.
Let me ask what you think of how Syria wound up, because Bashar al-Assad now lives in Moscow.
Yeah.
He was taken out by our allies, and he's been replaced by a radical Islamist who was affiliated with ISIS. So is that a win or no?
Unclear. Look, Syria's a mess, so I've consistently opposed.
But we had a secular leader in a religious and ethnically diverse country. Now we have a religious extremist, Islamic religious extremist, who's overseeing the purge of Christians and Alawites. Is that better? That doesn't seem like a win.
One of the things you said is you said he was taken out by our allies. I don't think that's right. Israel didn't take Assad out. What happened, and I'll tell you.
What about Turkey?
Turkey didn't take him out. So it was interesting. I had a long...
How did Assad get kicked out? Yeah.
When Netanyahu was in D.C. a couple of months ago, he and I sat down for a couple of hours. He's a good friend of mine. And we talked actually about Syria. He made an interesting point that I've not heard anywhere else, in that he said he believes what toppled Assad was when Israel took out Nasrallah. Nasrallah was the head of Hezbollah, and they took him out. And he made an interesting point. He said it's fascinating how a charismatic leader, and Bibi said, look, Nasrallah was a very effective terrorist leader. And when they took him out, that power base was supporting Assad. And that ultimately, in Bibi's analysis, removed the support from Assad and toppled him. But they weren't trying to take out Assad. My view now, I don't know.
So you don't think that, and I don't, it is very confusing, and I don't know that anyone really knows all the details, but you don't think that Israel or Turkey or NATO ally Turkey played any role in toppling Assad?
I don't know. I don't know that they did. Look, my understanding of that, they clearly took out Nasrallah and Hezbollah. They've decimated Hezbollah, but Hezbollah is waging war on them. So decimating Hezbollah was very good for Israel and very good for America, too. I mean, Hezbollah hated us.
Phoenix Energy is fueling America's future. We're also dedicated to helping you build toward your future financial goals. Our Regulation D 506C bonds with 9 to 13% annual interest rates deliver convenient monthly payments. As of September 30th,
I would put Assad in the category of an unintended consequence, and whether it's good or bad, I don't know. I think time will tell.
For the United States.
Yeah, for the United States. I think time will tell the new leadership there. You're right to be concerned. Let me step back and let's talk regime change generally. I mentioned Syria. I also opposed the Iraq War. I think the Iraq War was a serious mistake. And we have a pattern, and going back to this binary of the interventionist and the isolationist. The interventionists advocate over and over again, there's a bad guy, there's a dictator who's doing bad things to his people, and they say, let's go topple him. And you have dictators in the Middle East who are killing radical Islamic terrorists. We come in and topple them. The radical Islamic terrorists take over, and they start killing Americans. In my view, how the heck does that help us? Like, Saddam Hussein was a horrible human being. He murdered and tortured people. Unequivocally bad guy. But it got much worse after we toppled him. And you ended up having ISIS rise up. I mean, that was the cause of ISIS, was toppling Saddam Hussein. Same thing in Libya. You had Gaddafi, another horrible guy, that under Obama, we toppled him. And you ended up having radical Islamic warlords taking over. And so, and it's the question I asked in Syria. Okay, well, what's the plan? And how is this good or bad for the United States? And so I don't think... With Iran, I view Iran as very different from Iraq.
But up to that point, you say we disagree. I don't hear really anything. I'm not quite sure what happened in Syria, but I don't know. So, right. But other than that, I don't hear anything I disagree with at all.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're in a complete agreement. I wonder, though, Is there a successful regime change that the United States supported that you're aware of in the last 100 years?
Sure, defeating the Soviet Union and the Soviet Union collapsing, winning the Cold War. That was the most consequential step for U.S. national security interests of our lifetimes.
Okay.
And
so you would classify that as a regime change that we affected?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Look, you and I are in my office. We're sitting next to a painting of Reagan in front of the Brandenburg Gate. And up top are the words, "Tear down this wall," in German, in the style of the graffiti.
Right.
And I think those are the most important words any leader has said in modern times. And if you look at how Reagan waged the Cold War, and Reagan is very much my model for how to, I actually think how Reagan took on the Soviet Union is exactly how we should take on China. Now, starting from the point, look, Reagan was not an interventionist. In 8 years, the biggest country Reagan ever invaded was Grenada. He was very reluctant to use U.S. military force.
He didn't respond after the 83 barracks bombings.
You're right. Yeah, he made the judgment that the risk exceeded the benefits. And that's a very rational decision to make. And it's reflected, Trump has made those same decisions where he is willing to use military force, but he very much asks, okay, is this good or bad for America? Does this endanger U.S. servicemen and women or not? And one of the points about the Cold War, look, nobody in their right mind wanted a shooting war between America and the Soviet Union. The two biggest nuclear powers on Earth firing bullets at each other is really unhealthy for human beings. Same thing is true with China. Nobody with any sense says, hey, let's go to war with China. That's really dumb, and a whole lot of people could die. But the Cold War showed we've got lots of tools short of sending the Marines to fight against a regime. And one of the most important tools is the bully pulpit. And so when I say I support regime change, I actually think just simply laying out what the Ayatollah does. And so I spend a lot of time, I speak to Iranian dissident groups, I speak out against human rights abuses. I think shining a light on the depravity of leaders is a really powerful tool that America has.
Should we limit our activity to that?
It depends. Again,
because the U.S. government pays opposition groups, militarized opposition groups in Iran to overthrow the government. We've done it in a lot of different places, as you know. I'm not saying it's bad, but that's very different from what you're describing. You're saying we're making a moral case, as we did for 7 years with the Soviets. Our system works, yours doesn't.
Yep.
And I think we made a credible case for that, and we beat them over 70 years economically.
And that was a huge part of it.
Right. I think everyone would agree that was the main part of it. We didn't beat them in Vietnam or North Korea.
The main part of it, but it was tied to a military buildup. So I think it was two things. It was one, the clarity. So Reagan came in and he described the Soviet Union as an evil empire.
Right.
And all of the intelligentsia in D.C., all the Democrats, all the media, they're like, what a horrible thing to say. You can't say that. Reagan went to the United Kingdom and he said, Marxism, Leninism will end up on the ash heap of history. People were horrified. They asked him, all right, what's your strategy in the Cold War? He said, very simple, we win, they lose. And that was all viewed as sort of a Philistine simplicity. And I think it was exactly right. And laying that out, speaking, do you know the backstory behind the Berlin Wall speech?
Yeah, I do, yes.
You probably know Peter Robinson, who was the speechwriter.
Yes.
So 3 times the State Department deleted those words from that speech. And 3 times Reagan wrote it back. And the State Department argued, they said, Mr. President, you can't say this. This is too bellicose, this is too provocative. And my favorite, they said, this is too unrealistic. The Berlin Wall will stand till the end of time. And Reagan said, look, this is the whole point of the speech.
Okay, let me just split screen this using the fancy Opera browser. Yeah, let's just buy both. Link below to download it for free.
And less than 3 years after Reagan gave that speech, the Berlin Wall was torn to the ground. And it wasn't knocked down by American Army tanks. We didn't shoot missiles at it. It was shining truth and light that tore it down. It was also rebuilding the American military. It was what was then pejoratively called Star Wars, where the Soviet Union, their economy couldn't match our military buildup, and it bankrupted them. That's an example of peace through strength.
I wonder, I mean, is there anybody who was alive in 1989 who wouldn't trade that America for the one we live in now? There's not one person, I don't think.
Oh, sure.
But, I mean, just the basic metrics, debt, suicide rate, life expectancy, it was...
Right.
I wonder why, after that victory, America didn't thrive in the way that we thought that it would, that I thought that it would. My family was involved in that. I mean, we were very focused on it in my house. Like, we won. And I wonder two things. Why didn't the United States kind of declare victory and make some sort of arrangement with Russia that allowed like mutual prosperity rather than continuing a Cold War? And second, I wonder why the United States didn't get a lot better. Like, why don't we have better infrastructure? Why don't we have fewer homeless? Why do we have all these drugs? Like, if we won, why does our country look like this? I walked across from Union Station this morning, as you do, I'm sure, every day. And all these people lying in the street and sleeping outside. It's like, what is that?
We're sorry to say it, but this is not a very safe country. Walk through Oakland or Philadelphia. Yeah, good luck. So most people, when they think about this, want to carry a firearm, and a lot of us do. The problem is there can be massive consequences for that. Ask Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse got off in the end, but he was innocent from the first moment. It was obvious on video, and he was facing life in prison anyway. That's what the anti-gun movement will do. They'll throw you in prison for defending yourself with a firearm. And that's why a lot of Americans are turning to Byrna. It's a proudly...
Hey, y'all pay attention to this, especially you felons out there. If anybody's a felon out there, this burner gun that he's talking about is felon friendly. You're legally able to carry this gun because I believe, if I'm not correct, it's CO2 operated. So, but it's non-lethal, but it's, you know what I'm saying.
American company Byrna makes self-defense launchers that hundreds of law enforcement departments trust. They've sold over 600,000 pistols, mostly to private citizens who refuse to be empty-handed. These pistols, and I have one, fire rock-hard kinetic rounds or tear gas rounds and peppered projectiles, and they stop a threat from up to 60 feet away. There are no background checks, there are no waiting periods. Byrna can ship it directly to your door. You can't be arrested for defending yourself with a Byrna pistol. Visit Byrna, BYRNA.com, or your local Sportsman's Warehouse to get yours today. Byrna.com.
Look, there's no doubt there are really dangerous forces in our society. Some of it is politics and some of it is culture. And one of the mistakes people make in politics is thinking everything is politics. So the political answer, which I happen to believe, is we went much further down the road of liberalism. You look at Bill Clinton, who inherited the peace dividend of the Cold War being over and moved us more to the left, and then Obama accelerated it a lot. So there are lots of bad economic policies, but I also think they're cultural things. You know, the loss of faith,
I agree with all of
family.
I know what you're going to say, and I agree 100%. I bet there's not one word that I would disagree with. All I'm saying is, like, I think it's important to step back and ask.
But I actually think Russia has very little to do with it. So,
well, that's kind of the point that I'm trying to make, which is, like, we're all sort of focused on beating our adversaries abroad, but what is victory worth if our own country becomes what it is now? And maybe we're spending a little too much time focused abroad and not enough time focused on the people sleeping outside Union Station.
Right.
So, look.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's what I've been saying. We in all of these people business. We're Captain Save-A-Holes for everybody. Everybody loves America, and America's gonna save us and help us and all of this shit. You got all these people around the world that's counting on us, but the people that's right here in this country can't even count on you guys. It doesn't make sense. How are you helping others and you can't help your own?
I absolutely think we need to focus at home emphatically, and we need to focus on prosperity. We need to focus on reducing the debt, reducing spending, empowering people, low taxes, small businesses. American free enterprise. It's the most powerful force for fighting poverty the world has ever seen. I'm 1,000% there. I also recognize it is a dangerous world, and part of the responsibility of leaders, part of President Trump's responsibility, is to keep America safe. Let's go back to where we started.
But can I ask you, you've been in the district a long time in D.C., so...
But how are you keeping America safe if your people's struggling, right? you ain't doing shit for them, right? They rioting. Your whole country's on fire, basically. But you want to go across the earth, the ocean, and go help somebody else? It doesn't logically make sense to me. How are you helping all these other people? How are you funding all this other stuff when, like he says, people sleeping outside of Union Station? There's people sleeping outside of those federal buildings that they're protesting against the ICE immigration. It's people sleeping out there. When them cars is on fire in the middle of the street and they gotta put that shit out and it's still smelling like smoke and sizzling and shit, it's people still gotta sleep on those streets, on the side of that street while that shit's sizzling, breathing in that shit. So it's a lot going on here, elderly. It's all kind of, you could take your pick. It's all kind of problems here. How are you guys crossing the ocean to go help other motherfuckers with their problems? And yet, we got tons of problems here.
So have I. And the cities.
One more thing, not to mention, our motherfucking value of our money is going down as we speak. But you going over here helping these motherfuckers who's helping to devalue your money.
It's way more dangerous, and Congress runs this.
No, it's a complete crap hole.
So I'm saying, like, no Iranian's ever going to kill me, but I could get carjacked here.
Well,
and I just don't understand how the Congress could run this city and focus on the dangers of Iran when the city is like garbage. Okay. It's garbage.
But Congress doesn't run the city. We could.
Congress does run the city. It's in the Constitution.
It's in the Constitution, but they've given home rule, so it's a Democrat mayor who runs it.
You control the Congress.
I'd vote for it, but
he just told you right now, Congress don't run the country. They're supposed to. We think they do, but they don't. It's somebody else. It's these black hole businesses, right? These shell companies that own us, that run us, that give them their playbook. This is what you run off of. All right, they go this way, you do this. They go that way, you do that. They go up, you do this. They go down, you do that. They got a playbook. This dude is no different from LeBron James. They're giving him the playbook. Go do it.
But it is a question of math.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like, why? How can people ignore? It's like, if my own kids are drug addicts, but I'm focused on my neighbor's kids, it's like I'm neglecting my own kids. And there's a sense in which the Congress is neglecting the country that elected them in favor of this relentless focus on
facts. Cook, Carlson, Tucker, cook, my nigga. You are cooking right now.
Other people's problems. That's the way it feels as an American.
Look, there are lots of problems in America that we need to fix. Why is DC a pit?
Hey, another thing, when this man is cooking and it's his turn to answer a question and he do that awkward pause. Look, I just wanna, when you hear that awkward pause, that mean he about to tell you some bullshit. That mean he trying to clean up the lies. That mean it's just some more fuckery. That awkward pause. Y'all be listening for that awkward pause. You gonna hear it a lot. And it's not just him. Anytime you hear a motherfucker give you an awkward pause after you ask them a question, it's like they thinking of a lie. Come on, man. Like, come on, bro. Come on, bro. Who you think we are? We're American. We smart as fuck. We pay attention. We're not just the robot consumers that you think we are.
Because you have a mayor and a Democrat city council that won't let police officers arrest bad guys. And in every city you see across the country, whether it's New York, whether it's Chicago, whether it's LA, whether it's San Francisco, if you have Democrats, we see the LA riots.
Bro, he's talking about the problems we have here in America. And you guys helping others with their problems. And you fall back to, they're not letting us arrest the bad guys. Ain't this is crazy. He said help. Arresting people is not helping. You can arrest criminals, okay, yeah. But that's not gonna help the homelessness. So you're saying they're all criminals, arrest them. They won't be sleeping outside the buildings anymore. You see how you motherfuckers think? You see how you think? But you got presidents and rulers like the one in Africa who just got in, who they trying to kill, the leader of Burkina Faso, where all his citizens, he get us in now, all his citizens get houses and shit. He paying for them houses, he paying for this, he paying for that. How is Africa paying for all this stuff? And y'all told us Africa was the worst country damn near out there. Broke, all that. That's what y'all told us. How is he able to give his people all this free shit and you're not? But you the one with the power, the money, the everything. But you can't give nothing free to your people. Not even health care. It's places around the world that got free health care. Didn't know if y'all knew that or not. Free health care on the house. Good health care. They got good education on the house. What we got on the house out here? A food stamp card that's not really on the house because you're really going to charge the father child support for that, so he ends up paying it, so it's not on the house, it's on the daddy. So all of you people out there with food stamps who's looking down on the father, you wouldn't be able to have it if it wasn't the father. The father is eventually paying for that shit. It ain't the government giving you that. It's the father.
Where they won't let people be arrested. All right.
Then why not work in regime change here? Why not use the bully pulpit?
I do. What do you think I do every day? And
I never see a Republican senator stand up and say, I just walked to work this morning over people dying of drug ODs. We're going to shut this place down unless they fix it. They're mad about Putin. Like, what did Putin do to Washington? Nothing.
Look, in terms of regime change, let's talk this week. The riots in L.A., I've made very clear that the cause of those riots are Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass. And when you elect communists who hate America, who stop law enforcement from arresting criminals,
No, that's not the cause of those riots. I can't let you sit here and lie to the people. That's not the cause of those riots. The cause of those riots is because y'all going up to little kids' schools and playing foul ball to get these immigrants. That's why they rioting. If y'all was playing a little more fair to get the immigrants, then you wouldn't be getting them as the rapid rate that you're getting them now. So that wouldn't be pleasing to you. You guys wanted them at a rapid rate, so which means you got to play foul ball. Which means they out there rioting because you're playing foul ball. Not because of what you talking about.
you get what you get on the street.
Amen, I agree.
My in-laws are Californians, and they're wonderful people. Heidi grew up on the Central Coast of California, and I remember I was texting with my mother-in-law, and I think I sent her a video of criminals going to a store and just looting in California. And her response, she said something like, "Well, this is really terrible. I wish we could. It's a shame we can't do anything about this." I said, "Yes, you can. Go in and arrest them, throw their butts in jail, put them in handcuffs, 100%. And it stops."
Exactly.
And so we know how to fix these things. And DC is I think DC voted, if I remember right, 92% Democrat. Democrat policies don't work, and they destroy every community that they are in charge of.
Then why don't Republicans assert their constitutional authority over the city? Don't they control the Congress?
Yes, I'd be all for it.
And y'all fix every country y'all touch? Come on, man. Every state y'all touch? Come on, man. That's a crock of shit. They going against y'all. This is a war. Y'all acting like we just so important. This shit, we peons compared to what y'all got going. And y'all on some gang shit. Y'all battling each other. Y'all do whatever it take to go against each other. So you talking all this shit, they doing all this shit just to go against y'all. They ain't doing this shit for the love of the people, to help the people. They doing this shit to go against y'all. The red squad, because they the blue squad. You see what I'm saying? This political gang shit.
Who's against it? Do you think?
Susan Collins is really vocally against it. So on questions of home rule, so for example, let's take an issue you and I care a lot about, the COVID lockdowns. I had a couple of years ago in the middle of them. DC was proposing, the DC school district was proposing throwing out of school any child that was not vaccinated. And at the time, if I remember correctly, it was something like 40% of the African American students in DC were not vaccinated. So they were talking about literally throwing out 40% of the kids at public school. And so I had a vote on the Senate floor to say, look, they can't throw kids out of school for this. And we ended up having a big argument, and part of the argument was home rule, where there was, and Susan was the most vocal Republican that's like, no, we have to let DC run. And I'm like, why? Constitution gives us the power to do it. And it ended up, by the way, every single Democrat, all of them, voted in favor of the DC public schools being able to throw out 40% of the black kids from school. And I said, look, you throw a kid out of school, you got a 14, 15-year-old boy, you throw him out of school, you know what's going to happen next. He's going to join.
You hear that? The Democrats. You see how they expose each other? He just exposed the Democrats right now. For people that didn't know that, he basically just told us the Democrats wanted to kick out urban children from school because they weren't vaccinated. They wanted to literally kick them out of school. So, we never really knew this. He's exposing this. You see how they do each other? This is the shit that they do to each other in these political gangs. Because that's what they are. This is a political gang war. I know gangs when I see them. I grew up in LA, all around gangs my whole life. I know what a gang is. They solidify me and classify me as a gang member, so I would know what a gang is. I'm an ex-gang member. I would know what a gang is. You guys are gang members. Political gang members, though. That's crazy. Gang members in control of the country. And y'all looking at overseas and Iran and them as terrorists and all. Y'all the same thing, man. Y'all just in suits. Y'all political gang members. Y'all represent with y'all ties and shit. How we represent with our flags out our pockets. We got a red flag out the right side, blue flag out the left side. Y'all got the blue ties and the red ties to show y'all ties and affiliates. We know what this is. Political gang members, man.
Join a gang. He's going to engage in crimes. He's going to engage in drugs. He could be dead within 5 years if that kid doesn't get an education. And
he acting like he care about that. He acting like he care if the kid join the gang, do drugs, or be in jail or dies. He don't care. All that does is pat in his pockets. Because guess what? If he joins a gang, he's going to jail. If he go to jail, he's going to make us money daily. And we going to make him slave. What do you mean? If he do drugs, we benefiting off that too. We letting this shit in the country. If he go to rehab, we benefiting off that shit too. If he do something stupid off the drugs and go to jail, we benefiting off that too. If he dies, hell, we benefited off that too. Another one down. One less to think about. You see what I'm saying? Open your eyes, people.
Democrats were more than happy to say, we don't care. Right now, our religion is get the vaccine or to hell with you.
But can you see, I mean, once again, I couldn't agree with you more, but can you feel the frustration of people, including your voters, every American, at the emphasis on foreign countries and the threat we supposedly face, a lot of which is fake, obviously, over the kind of slowly unfolding tragedy of what's happening to our country? The dollars spent, the aid packages to Ukraine to pay the retirement of civil servants in a country that we have nothing to do with, the endless support for Israel, very expensive. When people are literally buying groceries on credit in the United States, can you feel like it's nothing against Ukraine or Israel or any other country?
All right, let's stop. You said the support for Israel very expensive. How much support do we give to Israel?
Well, you tell me. You vote for it.
It's about $3 billion a year is the military assistance.
Is that the only assistance?
Yeah, we just have military assistance. Israel does not have additional assistance. There's an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, and it's $3 billion a year.
So what is it costing to support the bombing campaign to protect Israel right now from Iran?
So I don't know right now, but I'll tell you this. Yeah. Let's go back to the touchstone on foreign policy.
Yeah. He don't want to get that number because that number's on top of the $3 billion that he talked about. He wants to throw out that 3 real quick. Like, yeah, what's the other number though? Because that's on top of the 3. Add it to the 3. You don't want to tell us that, do you? You don't. You lying sack of shit. I'm sorry. Allegedly, my opinion.
Interest. Our support, our military support for Israel is massively in America's national security interest.
What does it cost?
It benefits us enormously.
Well, before we can make independent judgments about whether or not that's true, and I'm certainly open to it, I think we need to know what it costs. So what's the annual cost of defending Israel? Do you know?
$3 billion a year.
No, that's the aid. But I mean, the cost of the weapons, for example, the cost of U.S. personnel there, the cost of moving ships to the region, which we're doing right now, the cost of moving tankers to the region, all of that. Do we know what the cost is?
So look, the last week, I don't know, and there's some lag when the administration, under the Constitution, the commander-in-chief...
You see how fast he lies? Tucker getting his ass in the corner. This is partner too, by the way. Nobody know how to do you but the ones next to you. You feel me? Pause. Hey, he getting done down by his boy. And look, he stuttered. Okay. Look. I was.
Has control of the armed forces, and so President Trump has made some decisions that we'll know the cost over time, but I don't know the last week. I don't have visibility on that. The annual cost is $3 billion. It's a 10-year memorandum of understanding, and that's the principal driver of the cost. But let me make a point. We get massive benefits from Israel. Israel shares the Mossad is one of the best intelligence sources on the planet. The enemies of Israel, the people who hate Israel, they all hate us. It's almost a perfect overlap. And so if we tried to recreate, if we're just trying to defend America, we tried to recreate the national security benefits of our alliance with Israel, it would cost, I don't know, $30 billion, $300 billion.
So can you elaborate? And again, I'm going into this as someone who's always liked Israel and still does. But I also think at this point, given where we are, it's fair to ask rational questions about what the benefits are.
Good.
So does Mossad share all of its intelligence with us?
Oh, probably not, but they share a lot. Really? We don't share all of our intelligence with them, but we share a lot. It's a close alliance.
Do they spy domestically in the United States?
Oh, they probably do, and we do as well. And friends and allies spy on each other, and I assume all of our allies spy on us.
Then it's okay with you?
Friends and allies spy on each other? Hold on. If you my partner, what the fuck is you spying on me for? That's not something friends do. Friends don't spy on each other. What the hell are you talking about, Ted Cruz? You see how they'll just say anything to make it sound good, to just move to the next subject, to get off of that shit because they ass on fire. Cook, Tuck, cook.
You know what? One of the things about being a conservative is that you're not naive and utopian. You don't think humans are all... Part of the reason socialism doesn't work is the mantra from each according to his abilities to each according to his needs doesn't work. As a conservative, I assume people act in their rational self-interest.
So it's conservative to pay people to spy on you?
It's conservative to recognize that human beings act in their own self-interest, and every one of our friends spies on us. And I'm not...
Do you like it? That's my question. I'm not asking whether they have motive to do it. Of course they do.
Every one of our
I understand that. And
by the way,
I'm not mad at them.
Every one of our friends spies on us? How are they our friends? How are they our friends if they spying on us? That's what I want to know. How are you my partner, but you spying on me, bruh? that means you plotting, you planning, bro. You got some type of ulterior motive. Like, how you're not my friend, bro. That's why I don't really have too many friends. My friends that I have are very, very, very good friends. They're like brothers. Very good friends. You would never know who my friends are. I got all different type of friends. All different kind of friends. When it comes to friends, I am the most lethalist. You understand? You'll never know what kind of friend I have. And I ain't talking no police shit. I'm just talking about just regular old knowing people. Your face card, just swipe it. You know what I'm saying?
And you're an American lawmaker, so I just want to know. Hold on, I want to know your attitude. Yeah. You said that your guiding principle, in fact, the only principle, the only criterion.
I said guiding, the overwhelming. I wouldn't say only.
Is it in America's interest? Is it in America's interest for Israel to spy on us, including on the president?
What else?
It is in America's interest to be closely allied with Israel because we get huge benefits for it. And you want to see the clearest.
But I just want to stop on the spying for a second. That it takes place, as you know, and including on the president of the United States and several precedents. And I just want to know if that's okay and why is it okay? Wouldn't an American lawmaker say to a client state, you're not allowed to spy on us? I'm sorry. I know why you want to. I'm not mad at you, but you're not allowed to.
Sure.
And I don't care for it. I don't want to be spied on by you. Is that, it's kind of weird not to say that, but you don't seem able to say that.
Sure, I would say don't spy on us. They're going to anyway. And by the way, the Brits are, the Canadians are. Like, I don't think...
Well, I'm not for that at all. Okay. I think it's disgusting. But we don't actually pay their... You know, we're not their most meaningful sponsor. We're not sort of paying for the operations of the British government.
So I got to say, and this is... It's weird. We're talking about isolationists, the obsession with Israel. Why is Israel...
Oh, I don't think I'm obsessed with Israel.
Okay, but I think a lot of people are, and like the question, Israel spies on us. Well, so does every other country. Why are you mad at Israel?
I guess... Oh, no. I'm hardly the one who's... I've never taken money from the Israel lobby. Have you?
Taken money from the Israel...
From AIPAC.
So AIPAC raises a lot of money for me, but it's actually a misnomer because the people who raise money are individuals.
I fuck with Tuck, man. Tuck is cooking. So he's getting paid by the Israelis. That's why he's biased. We figured it out, people. We figured it out. We got to the bottom of it. He ain't even know it. We got to the bottom of it. They patting his pockets. So everything he says from this point forward is just fuckery. They patted his pockets, bro.
So it's not the PAC itself, but they're individual members who believe in the American-Israeli friendship and relationship.
Is AIPAC a foreign lobby?
No, it's an American lobby. It's the AIPAC stands for the America-Israeli Political Action Committee.
What does it lobby for?
So, to be honest, not a whole lot effectively. Listen, I came into Congress 13 years ago with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate.
Great.
And I've worked every day to do that. AIPAC, a lot of times, AIPAC, I wish were much more effective. Like, there are folks online who are in the fever swamp of terrified of AIPAC, and AIPAC...
I'm not terrified of AIPAC at all. You're the one who seems a little uncomfortable when I'm asking.
No, not uncomfortable at all.
I'm just asking what AIPAC does. My understanding, having known a lot of people who
can tell you.
You a little uncomfortable, huh? Don't get fidgety.
Is that it lobbies on behalf of the Israeli government?
Wrong.
Oh, okay.
America has thousands of colleges and universities, and a lot of them, unfortunately, are basically just scams. It's one of those things nobody really wants to talk about, but
Hey, y'all hit that like and that subscribe right now. You know, we bringing you that hot fire. If you're new to the channel, let's get it on. Nah, I'm just playing. I got to make a new slogan for the new people. If you're new to the channel, what's up? Hit them with that old Martin. What's up? Nah, but hit that like, hit that subscribe. I don't know if y'all fucking with Tucker, man. Tucker cooking, man. Tucker is cooking Ted Cruz ass. Boy, he got him on a grill. And this is his boy. You see how they do each other? Look, political gangsters.
everybody on some level knows that it's true. What's an impressive college in 2025? There aren't many at all. Hillsdale is one of them. It is the exception. They cut straight through the woke garbage. They give their students a real education, an actual education. Meet a Hillsdale student and ask yourself, is this the best educated 22-year-old I've met in a long time? Yeah, because they don't have propaganda in their education.
If you on your way to work, if you on your way to school, if you on your way just to get the bag, shout out to y'all. Shout out to y'all. Salute. Get your money. Stay positive. Keep God first. We gonna make it through this, people.
The truth, facts, history, English, math. If you think it sounds good, because it is good, think of this. Hillsdale is offering over 40 free online courses you can enroll in today. There's no catch at all. You don't have to pay anything. Not going to hit you up for anything. It's free. You can learn about the Constitution, the Bible, the basis of Western civilization, Rome's rise and fall, early Christian church, things that actually matter, not one dime. Free. They have a new class called Understanding Capitalism that teaches Americans basic economic ideas, describes our own system, a system that is falling apart. A lot of people want you to hate, but for 250 years has been the best and most productive in the world. You'll understand the basis of our economy from founding till president. Hillsdale not afraid to preach the message our country has forgotten, which is freedom is good, Christianity is good, markets are good, and they make this country better by raising well-educated students. We endorse this. As a college hater, I love Hillsdale. Go to tuckerforhillsdale.com to sign up for Understanding Capitalism today, the course Understanding Capitalism, zero cost, just the truth. That's tuckerforhillsdale.com to enroll for free.
When was the last time AIPAC took a position that deviated from Prime Minister Netanyahu?
All the time.
Name one.
Okay. Let me go back and give a little history. If you want to do a deep dive on AIPAC,
I don't. I want to do a shallow dive that gets.
No.
I want to get to the core question. AIPAC is lobbying for a foreign government, and I don't. It's not.
No.
It's lobbying for the United States.
It is lobbying for a strong U.S.-Israeli relationship.
Okay. So it's not has nothing to do with the foreign government.
It wants America and Israel to be closely allied.
Okay, but it's lobbying on behalf of the interests of another country.
So that's not true at all. And if
it's not true.
No.
How much contact do you think AIPAC leaders have with the government of Israel?
No idea. I imagine some. I think the government of Israel is often frustrated with AIPAC because AIPAC's not nearly strong enough.
Do you think there's any coordination between the government of Israel and AIPAC?
Do they talk? Sure. If you're lobbying for more U.S.-Mexico trade, would you talk to people in the U.S. and Mexico and the government? Sure. Like if...
So I'm not mad about that. There are a million countries that lobby Washington. I like a lot of those countries, including Israel.
But AIPAC are Americans. They're not Israelis.
Hold on. There are tons of Americans who lobby on behalf of foreign governments. I know them. I'm related to some of them. I know how it works. I'm from here. So my question is not, is it outrageous that foreign governments lobby the United States? They all do, okay, including Israel. My only question is, why don't we admit that is what's happening? You're denying it, but it's true.
Yeah, and why
aren't they registered as a foreign lobby?
Because they're not.
They're not a foreign lobby.
No, they're not. And this is that there's a fever swamp. Look,
it's not a fever swamp. These are very reasonable questions, and you've accused me of being obsessed with Israel, which I'm not.
I actually haven't. I've said
isolationist. And being feverish about it, which I'm not at all. I find it's a very tender spot when you ask it, and I don't know why.
So, Tucker, all right, let's go back. I was first elected to the Senate.
Hey, I don't know why I agreed to this goddamn interview in his head.
2012. I came in Obama's second term. And I actually saw AIPAC be badly wounded in a way they never came back from. And the second term is when Obama did the Iran nuclear deal. And the Iran nuclear deal, I think, was catastrophic. And AIPAC went all in lobbying against it.
Yeah.
And they failed. And I was the leading opponent of the Iran nuclear deal.
Oh, I know. They definitely failed, yes.
They failed. And what happened, the Obama White House told every Democrat, when I got here, there used to be real bipartisan support for Israel. That has largely disappeared. And it's the Obama nuclear deal that caused it, because the Obama White House told every Democrat, pick. You either stand with Israel or you're a Democrat and you stand with the Obama White House. And almost every single Democrat member of Congress said, I'm a Democrat first, to hell with Israel. And then I watched as AIPAC, every one of those Democrats got reelected, and AIPAC did nothing about it. And it dramatically reduced AIPAC's influence.
I agree. I watched it happen.
And by the way, I told AIPAC, I said, look, the analogy, if the NRA was supporting a bunch of politicians and cared about the Second Amendment, and you had politicians that vote to confiscate people's guns, and the NRA turned around and raised money for the people who voted to confiscate guns, you know what? No one would ever care what they said again.
So you're making the case that AIPAC is not as powerful as people say it is, and I completely agree with you. I've watched that, and I'm not making the case that AIPAC is all powerful and they're running everything and putting fluoride in the water. I'm not making that case at all, because that's not true. I'm only trying to get to the question of what AIPAC is, and I don't think you're being straightforward about it. AIPAC is lobbying on behalf of the interests of a foreign country, and they're not registered. And you're saying, no, that's not true. You're saying that they don't coordinate with the Israeli government.
Of course, I coordinate. They talk with them. I don't know what they do. I can tell you.
But why don't you care? Isn't it meaningful if a foreign government...
Hey, I talk with Israel all the time.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
Countries all the time.
But the law is, and a lot of people have been prosecuted under this law, that if you are lobbying on behalf of a foreign government, you must register. That's it. It's really simple. And I don't know why, if I'm working for Malaysia or Qatar or Belgium, and I'm working on behalf of its government's interests through a group of Americans who are representing the friendship between those two nations, I have to register under the Foreign Agent Registration Act, and if I don't, I can go to jail. And people have gone to jail, including people I know. So I don't understand why we don't just be honest and say they're lobbying on behalf of a foreign government, they're coordinating with the government.
Tucker just said it. He got personal interests. Some people he knows went to jail for this. So he really curious on why Apex don't have to register. And that's a very interesting topic too. Maybe we should get on that later.
Government, you know that that's true?
That is not only not true, that is false.
They're not coordinating with the Israeli government?
Do you know how AIPAC raises money?
What?
For elected officials, like what they do, like what the actual mechanics is?
Yeah, I mean, they go to people who are sympathetic to Israel and raise money and then send it to candidates who agree with them.
So what they'll do is, so in my last election, AIPAC endorsed me. And they'll host a fundraiser. And they'll host a fundraiser in Dallas or Houston or Atlanta or New York or LA. And they'll do a fundraiser and they'll get someone who will host it. And it's usually a business owner, lawyer, doctor, or someone who hosts it. And you'll get typically at an AIPAC fundraiser 30, 40, 50, maybe 100 people who live in that city,
right?
Who care about a strong U.S.-Israel relationship, and if they have 50 people, each of them writes $1,000 check, and you raise $50,000.
Yeah, I've been to an AIPAC fundraiser. I know what it looks like.
But that is not. And by the way, there's no representative of the Israeli government there. You have when you're in Dallas, you're meeting with.
This is such a false and silly conversation. I know all this. The question is are AIPAC's goals shaped by the goals of the Israeli government to any extent?
Okay, that's a really simple question. From lobbying on behalf of.
It's a simple question. Are AIPAC's goals shaped by the goals of the Israeli government? And I'm just going to ask you that question straightforwardly. And if you say no, I think we both know that's not true.
Okay, are they shaped by?
Are they coordinating with the Israeli government?
Are they talking with them? Yes. Is Israel directing them? You want to talk about FARA? The law on lobbying on behalf of someone.
Yeah.
It is, I hire you and you lobby on behalf of me. I direct you. Does Israel direct AIPAC? No, they are not lobbying on behalf of them. Do they care about them? Yes, but...
Do you think that... It's just interesting because what you're now describing in a very defensive way, I will say, is foreign influence over our politics.
No.
And you began, and it's so transparently obvious to everybody. I don't know why you would be embarrassed of it. You've said that you are sincerely for Israel. I believe you. I don't think you have some weird agenda. You seem to be sincere.
By the way, Tucker, it's a very weird thing. The obsession with Israel, when we're talking about foreign countries...
It's hardly an obsession.
You're not talking about Chinese. You're not talking about Japanese. You're not talking about the Brits. You're not talking about the French. The question, what about the Jews? What about the Jews?
Oh, I'm an anti-Semite now. Senator,
you're asking the questions, Tucker. You're asking, why are the Jews controlling our foreign policy?
Senator,
that's what you just asked.
Hardly saying that, and I have.
That is exactly what you just said.
Well, actually, I can speak for myself and tell you what I am saying.
Good.
On behalf not simply of myself, but on my many Jewish friends who would have the same questions, which is to what extent, and it's interesting you're trying to derail my questions by calling me an anti-Semite, which you are.
I did not.
Of course you are. And rather than be honorable enough to say it right to my face, you are in a sleazy, feline way implying it, or just asking questions about the Jews. I'm not asking questions about the Jews.
Feline way. They about to get spicy. They get it spicy. He basically called him a bitch. He said a sleazy feline way. Come on, that's a pussy. Sleazy pussy. Like, that's what he calling you, bro.
There's nothing to do with Jews or Judaism. It has to do with the foreign government.
Isn't Israel controlling our foreign policy? That's not about the Jews?
You said, I'm asking you.
And by the way, you're the one that just called me, I think, a sleazy feline. So let's be clear.
It's sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite, which you just did.
No, I just said, why is that the only question you're asking? You answer it. Give me another reason. If you're not an anti-Semite, give me another reason why the obsession is Israel.
I am in no sense obsessed with Israel. We are on the brink of war with Iran. And so these are valid questions.
But you're not asking about Iran or the Ayatollah.
If I can finish, you asked me why I'm obsessed with Israel.
Yep.
3 minutes after telling me that when you first ran for Congress, you elucidated one of your main goals, which is to defend Israel.
Yes.
And I'm the one who's obsessed with Israel. I don't see a lawmaker's job as defending the interests of a foreign government, period. Okay. Any government, including the ones that my ancestors come from. So that's my position. That does not make me an anti-Semite. And shame on you for suggesting otherwise. And I mean that. And that's low, and you know it's low. So why don't you just answer my questions
I'll answer
in a straightforward, rational way? You certainly have the IQ to do it.
So shame on you is cute, by the way, Tucker.
It is. It's not cute. I'm offended. I'm obsessed with the Jews. You just told me
you
that
just called me a sleazy feline.
Shame on you. Tucker cooking this nigga. Tucker is cooking his ass so bad. He's stuck on those insults. He can't get past that sleazy feline. You hear me? Yeah, sleazy feline.
It is sleazy to imply that I'm an anti-Semite for asking questions about how my government is run.
You want to count how many questions you asked about? What about the Jews? What about Israel? What about AIPAC?
I never asked about the Jews. This has nothing to do with the Jews, whatever that means. This has to do with a foreign government. And once again, shame on you for conflating the two.
Shame on
They have nothing to do with each other. I'm talking about the influence of
Israel and Jews have nothing to do with each other?
All Jews, or an attack on all Jews, which I am not, nor would I ever be undertaking now. I'm not attacking anybody.
By the way, that's who Iran wants to kill, is all the Jews and all the Americans.
And I'm totally opposed to that, okay? But now, because
except you don't want to do anything about it.
Decisions need to be made.
We can talk about those decisions.
And I plan to.
Good.
But
He said, except you don't want to do anything about it. He basically calling you a bitch, Tuck. He's saying you the bitch, Tucker. Tucker finna explain it. Break it down, Tucker, what you mean.
Just want to get a sense of whether you think, having described yourself as an America First person whose only criterion for judgment on foreign policy is America's national interest, to what extent you're influenced by a foreign government, which gives you a lot of money through its lobby, and you're claiming this has nothing to do with the foreign government. They're not coordinating. Yes, they're spying on us, but it doesn't bother you. And I'm sort of wondering, like, what is this? This is one of the weirdest conversations I've ever had.
I'll tell you what, and I'll answer any question you like, but let's try to...
Are you going to call me an anti-Semite again, or no?
Let's try to ratchet down the temperature a little.
You're the one who went to motive. I'm asking honest questions.
I'm
just asking questions. Yes, that's it. That is what I'm doing.
Let's try to ratchet down the temperature a little bit.
Okay. Picture the house of your dreams. Maybe it's got an outdoor pool, a huge front porch.
Hey, that man hands is out like, please. Please, brother, please. Take it easy on me, man. Nah, Tuck. Kick it up a notch.
An inviting fireplace for a cold winter's night. No matter what you prefer, there's little doubt that an American flag waving out front enhances the whole thing. What better way to welcome your guests than with a flag outside your home? But wait, there's a problem. The American flags you're likely to buy at some big stores were made in China. An American flag made in China? Come on. Pure Talk, America's wireless company, believes every American deserves an American flag that was made in America. And that's why they're determined to give an allegiance flag, the highest quality American flag, to 1,000 veterans in time for summer. Pure Talk is using a portion of this month's sales to honor Flag Day and provide these American flags to American veterans. With plans from just $25 a month for unlimited talk, text, plenty of data, you can enjoy America's most dependable 5G network while cutting your cell phone bill in half, for real. Go to puretalk.com/Tucker to support veterans and to switch to America's company. Wireless from Pure Talk.
And did you ever see an Eddie Murphy movie called The Distinguished Gentleman?
No.
It's this great movie. It's actually a fun comedy about politics. And Eddie Murphy in the movie is a con man who gets elected to Congress. And he's literally a con man who, the congressman dies, he has the same name, and so he runs and they get elected. And there's a scene in the movie where Eddie Murphy is a freshman member of Congress, and he's sitting down with a sleazy lobbyist. And he's asking the lobbyist, all right, what should my positions be on, I think they were talking about power plants and electrical transmission lines. And the lobbyist's like, well, what do you believe? And Eddie Murphy's the con man said, I don't care, whatever gets me the most money. I'll do whatever gets me the most money. And the lobbyist says, no, pick a side. Doesn't matter what you pick. If you pick one side, we'll go shake down everyone who supports that side and they'll give you money. If you pick the other side, that's fine. We'll just go to the other side and shake down that. That's a little bit the way it works. And you often get leftists in the media who say, for example, if you support the Second Amendment, as you do and I do, well, you're just bought and paid for by the NRA. And that actually is backwards. I believe in the Second Amendment because I believe in the Constitution. Now, am I proud that the NRA supports me? Sure, because people who care about the Second Amendment want to support leaders who fight for it. But it gets it backward. Look, AIPAC, when I ran for the Senate, AIPAC didn't support me. I supported Israel before they supported me. I'm happy to have their support because they share my objective.
No, but you're missing it. I'm not suggesting that you're bought and paid for. I'm not saying that.
I want to go back and
take sincere.
I'm suggesting you bought and paid for, allegedly.
I go back and take the transcript because you just said a minute ago, I'm slightly paraphrasing, but are you lobbying for a foreign government because they pay you a lot of money? That's basically what you said. So you are suggesting that.
Let me just be clear about what I think. Your views seem totally sincere.
Yes.
You take money from people who agree with you.
Yeah.
I believe that. I
even take money from people who disagree with me.
I'm only trying to get to the question of to what extent is the U.S. government influenced by other governments? And it's a lot.
Of course.
It's hardly just Israel. It's hardly just Israel. I don't think Israel's the main one. There are lots of governments. China is a massive influence on this city.
And it's a huge problem.
As you know, I couldn't agree more. And there are lots of other. The UK, which is a truly sinister place, in my opinion, as a ethnic Brit, I can say. I think that's my view. Maybe you disagree.
I think they're on the wrong path. I love the Brits, but their government has gone off the rails. Without even getting into that. I'm just saying I don't think Israel's the only one. But it's the only one where you're instantly called an anti-Semite for asking questions. And it's also the only government that no one will ever criticize. And people criticize Israel every minute of every day. Like, the only government that people will not criticize, Rashida Tlaib just tweeted out calling Benjamin Netanyahu a war criminal.
Rashida Tlaib? No,
you said no one will criticize.
No, I'm talking about Republicans that I would vote for, including you. And I'm saying, whatever. I don't even like talking about Israel. What I care about, I never do, because it's not worth being called anti-Semites from AIPAC recipients. But now we are on the verge of joining a war, and I just want to be clear about why we're doing this.
All right, so, and let's get into Iran momentarily, but you suggested it was a strange thing that I said a minute ago, that when I came into the Senate, I resolved that I was going to be the leading defender of Israel. And what you didn't ask is why, so let me tell you why.
No, you said I was obsessed with Israel.
Who cares why?
On Trump.
Yes.
They've hired hitmen. How do we know that?
All right, let me break it down. People have been arrested. So the reason I brought up Pompeo, Bolton, and Hook, who are under active assassination attempts because of their service in the first Trump administration, under the Biden administration.
Well, they say that. I've never seen any evidence of it.
Can I give you the evidence?
Well, let's just stick with Trump.
No, because these are interrelated. So let me make a bloody point. Under the Biden administration, the State Department was spending $2 million a month providing security for Pompeo, Bolton, and Hook. And they did arrest Iranian hitmen at John Bolton's apartment complex, who rented, I think, the apartment next to him, and were actively trying to assassinate him, and they went and arrested them. So yes, they caught Iranian hitmen. Now, it so happens Iran's not very good at it. And so they are actively trying. And in fact,
but what about Trump? He's the president. If there's a plot to kill Trump by the Iranians,
so you dispute that the Iranians are trying to kill Trump?
Of course. I mean, that's the most important question. The Prime Minister of Israel just said there have been 2 assassination attempts against Donald Trump by the Iranians. And I think it's a very fair question.
Hold up. If I'm not mistaken, I'm an American citizen. I was here during the elections. They blame that on the Democrats. They blame those assassination attempts on the Democrats. That's who they blame that on. Now they blaming it on Iran. So they just tossing it up. All you niggas was in on it. This is crazy.
Question, maybe you disagree, to ask, what are you talking about?
Okay, and I agree with you that he misspoke.
So there weren't those 2 attempts?
There were 2 attempts, but the clown in Butler, Pennsylvania, and the other guy on the golf course were not connected to the arrangements.
Right.
That's the part that he misspoke. But by the way, when you speak all the time, occasionally, what he said that was accurate is that Iran is actively trying to murder Donald J. Trump and has paid hitmen.
Okay, but that's fine.
And he was conflating it with the 2 attempts.
I understand. But I just want to pull that thread because it's so important. I voted for Donald Trump. I campaigned for Donald Trump. Yeah. He's our president. And we're on the cusp of a war. So if there's evidence that Iran paid hitmen to kill Donald Trump and is currently doing that, where's that? Like, what are you even talking? I've never heard that before.
Okay.
Where's the evidence? Who are these people? Why haven't they been arrested? Why are we not at war with Iran?
That's a great
I never heard that either.
Question to ask.
How do you know that that's true?
We know that it's true because we have been told that by the military and our intelligence community for the last 2 years.
We meaning who?
Congress has, and the public. I mean, we had multiple testimonies. I can send you testimony.
Do we know the names of the people or where this happened or what they tried to do to kill Trump?
We have not apprehended an Iranian hitman trying to kill him. We know that Iran is trying to do so.
Wait.
In the United States.
Wait.
Yes.
Hold on. You just said it was 2 men in the apartment building next to this. Okay, that was a senator they was trying to kill. Okay. That wasn't Trump. This is crazy. But you ain't got no evidence of them trying to kill Trump, but you know that they're actively trying to kill Trump. This is crazy.
And by the way, like Iran...
This just seems like a huge headline, and you're acting like everyone knows this. I didn't know that.
Iran put out a whole video about murdering Trump.
Right, but I've never heard evidence that there are hitmen in the United States. I mean, trying to kill Trump right now. We should have a nationwide dragnet on this, and we should attack Iran immediately if that's true. Don't you think?
No.
If they're trying to...
I seen the video. It turned Trump into a devil and all this shit. But they ain't... That's videography. They can do whatever the fuck they want. They can make a movie, whatever they want. They ain't tried to come over here and kill nobody.
To assassinate our president?
They have been...
There's plenty Iranians in America. Do you know that? It's plenty of them. A lot. Doctors, lawyers, all kind of people. They're here. What do you mean? They ain't tried to kill him.
For 2 years.
Then why aren't we at war with them?
Well, we are trying to...
Why don't we just nuke Tehran if they're trying to murder our president? There's nothing that you could do that would be worse for the United States than murdering Trump. And I just don't understand why you're not calling for the use of nuclear weapons against the Ayatollah right now. I'm serious. If you really believe they're trying to murder...
The use of nuclear weapons... See,
whatever
that's part of the problem of...
So what do you mean? You don't seem to take the allegations seriously. I do. If you believe they're trying to murder Trump, we need to stop what we're doing and punish them.
Can I ask something? And I mean this sincerely. So, all right, 20 years ago, you were... I think it's fair to say, in the interventionist world, you were a vocal,
big time.
You were a vocal defender of the Iraq War.
I was a promoter of the Iraq War,
and you now, and look. I think you think you were mistaken. I think you were mistaken. That's okay. Look, people change and learn, and that's part of the journey of being human. Your views have moved, though. In my view, they've gone way too far the other end, and so I'm just
totally confused.
Why.
I'm saying, hold on. Wait, this is one of the weirdest conversations I've ever had. I'm saying if it's true that Iran is trying to murder Trump, we need to move militarily against Iran immediately. That's not isolationism. That's that's a call to violence, which I am calling for. If we believe that Iran is trying to murder our president, we need to strike Iran.
Okay, but isolationists say things like, well, then just nuke them, which is what you just said, which is kind of a weird...
Because I'm upset, because I'm taking you seriously. You don't take your own statements seriously.
I take my statements very seriously.
So I've asked you, where's the evidence this is true? And you said, well, they're trying to assassinate Brian Hook or something, which I'm against, by the way. I'm against hurting any American, period, no matter.
So you dispute that they're trying to murder
I'm not disputing
Hook,
it at all.
and Bolton?
I'm not disputing it at all.
They literally arrested the hitman with Bolton.
I don't know why that's even relevant. I'm asking about the President of the United States.
Wait, it's not relevant that Iran hired hitmen to murder cabinet members in Trump's administration? That doesn't go to
I've
how
already
credible
said
is it that they're
I'm
willing to spend money to do
totally
that?
Opposed to that. It's awful. I am against killing anybody, actually, and especially foreign government. Okay. I'm asking about your allegation and the Prime Minister of Israel's allegation that Iran is trying to murder the president.
Killing terrorists is a good thing. Killing people who are trying to murder Americans is a good thing. Because if you're America first, you want to protect America. And so killing Osama bin Laden was a fantastic day for the world.
But you don't really believe that they're trying to murder Trump, or you?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Then why aren't you calling for military action against Tehran right now?
Because they're not very effective. In terms of hitmen, their hitmen are not very effective. I do think...
So they're hitmen, but not the bad kind, the efficient kind?
No,
what are you saying?
They're a weak country who is on its knees, and I think we need to...
Then why are we so afraid of them? Why are they the biggest threat if they're a weak country that's on its knees?
Because they're trying...
I'm trying to keep track.
They're trying...
They are not a weak country. 90 million people, some of the smartest people in the world. Don't get it fooled. They are not a weak country. I don't care what they trying to tell us. I'm telling you right now, they are not a weak country.
Trying to develop... Be a little less snarky.
I know, you're right. That is a problem that I have. I'm sorry.
They're trying to develop nuclear weapons. They are close to developing nuclear weapons. And even a weak country with a nuclear weapon. Look, I believe there is a very real possibility if the Ayatollah develops a nuclear weapon that he would detonate it either in Tel Aviv or New York or Los Angeles. And that would be utterly catastrophic. And I don't know what the chances are of that. Let me compare and contrast Iran to North Korea.
Wait, can I just ask one last question about trying to kill the president? You sincerely believe, you promise, that right now the Iranian government is trying to murder our president?
Yes.
You sincerely believe right now?
Absolutely.
And yet you are not calling for military action against the government that's trying to murder our president. Can you explain that?
I don't think they're very effective. I do think we should, by the way, America is
You're willing to take that risk?
I think we should protect the president and we should take out our enemies.
Well,
Israel is doing that right now.
But aren't they? Why would we outsource it to Israel?
There go that awkward silence again, y'all. Y'all caught it?
Your first question was, why are you for regime change? That's a pretty good example of why I'm for regime change.
Okay, so you're saying we should just go in and take out the government of Iran. Why would we outsource it to Israel if they're trying to murder our president? Okay, you sound like the isolationist.
What I'm saying on any military judgment is there needs to be a cost-benefit analysis of what are the risks versus what are the benefits. In this instance, I think it is enormously in America's interest to do what Israel is doing right now: take out Iran's senior military leadership and take out their nuclear capacity. That is benefiting America, and it is a good risk-reward. I would oppose invading Iran and putting boots on the ground to topple the government. If the risk got severe enough, I would support that, but I think the relative risk is not severe enough to justify that step at this time. What I would absolutely oppose under any circumstances is invading Iran and then staying and trying to turn them into a democracy. And part of where Iraq really went off the rails is not only did we topple someone who was fighting radical Islamic terrorists, who was a bad guy, but then we tried the vision of interventionists. It actually overlaps with the vision of a lot of Democrats. Let's go promote democracy in the world.
I agree.
And it is our military's job to kill the bad guys, to defend America. It's not their job to defend international norms. It's not their job. So I have zero desire for the U.S. military to turn Iran into Switzerland. Look, would it be nice if they suddenly became Switzerland? Sure. If I could wave a magic wand, great. But I'm not going to send your kids or my kids to be in front of guns to go make that happen.
Well, bless you for that. I think that is the lesson that I learned from Iraq. I promoted that war. Apparently, unlike you, I was dumber. And I think that you just articulated the main lesson of it, which is it's hard to do that, and we're not good at it. But
I will, And so we are agreeing on that. I will say as a
Vehemently agreeing.
As a corollary, that doesn't mean that horrible, evil dictators are okay. And going back to Reagan and the Cold War, we have lots of weapons. I am happy to highlight the brutality, the oppression, the human rights abuses of regimes, even though I don't want to invade them, because I think the bully pulpit of American leadership is really powerful. And I think dictatorships are terrified. So I've spent 13 years in the Senate. One of the things I do frequently is highlight dissidents in Iran and North Korea and China. You've become one, and I don't mean it as a slur.
Of course I've not.
You consistently say, you have said, actually, I want to read from your newsletter, because if you ask what an isolationist is, your newsletter a couple of days ago, you wrote, Iran cannot have a nuclear bomb, and we're hoping to get back to the negotiating table. We will see. There are several people in leadership in Iran that will not be coming back, Trump said, following the strikes.
Right.
It's worth taking a step back and wondering how any of this helps the United States. We can't think of a single way. Okay, that to me is the essence of isolationism. And let me just ask you, when the Ayatollah chants death to America, I believe him. Do you not believe him? Do you think he doesn't mean it when he says death to America?
Well, I think he hates America, for sure. And I'm opposed to that.
And do you think he's willing to act on it? It's not just hate America. He also is leading a country and trying to develop a nuclear weapon.
Under certain circumstances, for sure. So the question is, do you act in a way that makes that more or less likely? And that's a tough call. It's something that you can debate. One of the ways you shut down debate is by calling people names like isolationists, pretending they're like pro-Nazi or something, or as you did, claiming I'm an anti-Semite.
Right,
that's not a way to get to a solution or have a rational conversation. That's a way to make people be quiet. And I'm against that. And
okay, so if you don't like the label
questions.
Isolationist, how would you... Look, Rand, and I served with Rand. Rand is a friend of mine, but Rand opposes every military action in every circumstance.
Of course I don't oppose every military. This whole thing is infantile, and you know that it is. It's a way to call people names.
So which of Trump's military actions do you support, and you disagree with them all?
And make them be quiet.
Give me another name. If you don't like that, I'm not trying to have you be quiet. We've been talking an hour and a half. I'm asking, if you don't like the name isolationist, how would you describe it?
I would describe myself in the same way you falsely described yourself in this conversation.
Falsely?
Yes, falsely.
What did I say false?
You said that the only thing that matters in a foreign policy decision is whether it helps the United States.
I didn't say the only, I said the predominant.
That's what I understood.
Okay.
So let me revise what you said and apply it to myself and say the only thing that matters is whether or not it serves the United States. And I feel very stung by what happened in Iraq, if I'm being honest. Possibly because, unlike you, I guess, I supported it. And I saw us get drawn into it in a way that nobody anticipated. And I saw the cost, just $3 trillion. And the cost on so many levels to the United States was just so profound. And I felt
a
like,
mistake.
Gosh, it reminds me of Kaiser Wilhelm in 1914 saying, my men will be back by the time the leaves turn. And of course, that destroyed Christian Europe. So it's like you don't really know where these things are going once the shooting starts. That's my only point. And calling people names, anti-Semite, isolationist, to get them to stop talking is not the way to serve your country. That's all I'm saying.
So I'm trying to have a real and serious conversation.
Right.
And look, a lot of this has been contentious. I wish it had not, because as we started out by saying, you and I agree vehemently on 80% of the issues. This discussion is focused on the 20% where we don't. I will say, look, on Iraq, you look at the 2016 presidential campaign where you had 17 Republicans running. If you set Rand aside, and his views are on one side, there were only two candidates on that stage that opposed the Iraq war. Me and Donald Trump were the only two. Everyone else thought the Iraq war was a great thing. I think it was a disaster. So you and I agree on that as well. In my view, I think your foreign policy has gone too far. So, let me ask you, is there a military action Trump has undertaken that you agree with? Because I've not heard anything.
Look, I would say it's really simple. I believe in self-defense. That's why I keep firearms at home. I think it's morally justified to defend yourself, your family, your property, your nation. And so to the extent that you can deter a threat through violence always being the least appealing choice. Violence always being, if I can finish, always being a tragedy. I think you can justify the use of violence in self-defense. That is my personal view, and that applies to me and to the country that I live in. Those are my views. That's not an isolationist view. It's not an anti-Israel view. It's not an anti-Semitic view, with apologies. It is, I think, a pretty common sense view. But my problem is that lawmakers in Washington are light on detail with these things, and they speak, as you do, entirely in moral terms. These people are bad. These people are...
I'm not speaking entirely in moral terms. I'm not interested in killing bad guys. I'm interested in killing people who are trying to kill us.
If we had...
That's different. I'm not engaged in morality.
Are you now? Because you told me that the government of Iran is presently trying to assassinate Donald Trump, and then you
that
said...
is undisputed. There's literally nobody who disputes that fact.
Then why don't you support military action right now against Iran?
We are engaged in military action right now.
Why don't you support offensive military action?
We're bombing the crap out of them. Israel is, and we're supporting them. Israel is.
Okay. So why shouldn't the U.S. military defend its own president? I don't understand that.
Look, and it goes back to...
Because you don't really believe it's true, that's why.
Everyone... Okay, nobody disputes it, Tucker. Did we land on the moon? What other conspiracies do you not believe? Was 9/11 an inside job? I mean, like, what?
So I've asked you the names of these people. I
don't know the names of the Iranian hitmen. I know it because the U.S. military and the intelligence agencies have testified before Congress repeatedly.
And what did they say?
That Iran is trying to murder Donald Trump and has hired hitmen. Do I know the name of the hitmen? No, I'm sorry. And I don't think we do either, because we would apprehend them if we knew their names.
Then why don't you take it seriously enough to support killing the Ayatollah in response to protect our president? But you don't. This doesn't even make any sense. And you're calling me an isolationist. If I believed that was true, I would support military action against the government of Iran.
Okay, that's interesting, because there is literally...
You can't kill our president.
All right, out of 535 members of Congress, I am not aware of one who disputes that Iran is trying to murder Donald J. Trump. That's not even the looniest Democrat doesn't dispute that. So I don't... You're saying if you believed what is, I think, a fact, that they are trying to...
You think it's a fact?
Yes.
What is the fact exactly?
That they've hired hitmen.
In the United States?
Yes.
Americans?
Yeah, he's not in Iran, so they haven't hired hitmen.
No, but are they the hitmen American?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm telling you what... And by the way, I'm not the CIA. I'm not the Department of Defense. I'm telling you what they have told us.
I'm not disputing it. I'm merely saying
we are.
That I'm not. I'm saying the logic train has a massive hole in it. If you believe that's true, then you should, by definition, support killing the people trying to kill our president. But you don't support that.
Now, Tucker,
so I'm wondering what's going on here.
Tucker, you took offense to the word isolationist, and I genuinely don't mean it as a pejorative. I disagree with it. But if you don't like that term, I don't know how else to describe what is a coherent foreign policy that says we're surrounded by two giant nations. By the way, isolationism has long been a school of foreign policy.
I believe in self-defense. I'm not but not into the slurs, the anti-Semite stuff. I just don't like that. I'm telling you what I believe.
But is there a single military action Trump took that you agree with? So did you agree with taking out General Soleimani?
Oh, I don't know. It turned out better than I thought, I guess.
I mean, you said at the time it would lead us to World War III.
I was worried about it. I've seen that happen.
But that proved not the case.
I was wrong, as I have been many times.
Did you agree with taking out the ISIS caliphate?
Well, if we took out the ISIS caliphate, why are they running Syria right now? And you're for that. Why is that?
What do you mean? I didn't say I'm for that.
You don't seem to have a problem with it.
I didn't say that.
ISIS is now running Syria. You're like, we'll see.
No, I did.
Look, I mean, I know why.
But by the way, I didn't push Assad out. Assad toppled.
It's hilarious.
You know why
Assad is bad, but no, ISIS runs Syria, but that's fine. We'll just kind of wait and see on ISIS. Not a big deal.
You know
not a big deal. They're trying to kill Trump.
Hold on a second. I want to get back. You know why I don't care, and why, and you do your trademark smirky laugh. I know why you don't care.
What are you even talking
about? Why don't I care?
I don't know why. You tell me. Because you think it's okay because they're not making angry noises or something, but by your own standards, ISIS is so immoral that they must die, but now they're running Syria, and you don't think that we should take military action against the government of Syria because why? They're ISIS.
What I said is I don't know how good or bad it'll be. Look, I wasn't pushing Assad out. He fell. He fell on his own, in part because he was heavily supported by Hezbollah, and when Israel took out the Hezbollah leadership, he lost his base of support.
But the current ISIS leadership, you don't think is bad? You can't say it's terrible that ISIS runs a country?
I am concerned about it.
Concerned? Aren't you horrified?
I want to see what they do.
Oh, so you got a wait-and-see attitude on ISIS now?
Damn.
On the government of Syria, they are not actively, that I am aware of, trying to murder Americans. And that's a real dividing line. Are you trying to murder Americans or not?
I'm just saying it's a little weird that we waged this war against ISIS and now they're running a country in the Mediterranean. I think that people would be very, very upset about that, but you don't seem
by
very
the way,
upset about that.
did you agree with Trump taking out al-Baghdadi, the head of ISIS?
I'm totally opposed to ISIS, and what I care about is result.
I didn't know ISIS was. I thought ISIS was dead. They running the whole country.
Actually, and if taking out the head of ISIS ends ISIS, I guess I'm for it. But now ISIS runs Syria,
Okay,
so I'm wondering how does this work?
I mean, my point is,
at the time. I mean, I've taken so many different positions over the years, some of which have been wrong. I really do my best to be honest and correct if they are, and admit that I was wrong. I'm not one of these people who's like, I've always been consistent. No, my views change all the time because the facts change all the time. You're not going to get consistency from me. You're only going to get sincerity.
well, I will say this, and look, I believe you're sincere.
Yeah.
But
I'm not God. I'm just some guy watching, trying to figure out the right thing for America.
And I think because you believe you were mistaken, and I agree previously, I think you've overcorrected.
I mean, overcorrected. I'm worried about turning this mess in Iran into a much larger mess. That's the concern. And
by the way, that's a reasonable worry. Look,
I know it's reasonable. And I know you've been like, you're like ready to call me all these names for asking, you're just asking questions. Yes, I am. So here's my question to you. If the Ayatollah is killed in Iran, and he very well could if there's a war. I have just read in the paper this morning that Israel tried to take him out twice and Trump told them not to.
I have read that. I don't have independent confirmation one way or the other.
Do you think that they should take him out?
So I actually talked about it. As you know, I do a podcast every week, Verdict with...
Oh, God. Hey, you already know, man. It's your boy, Banston, man. We had a good episode, this one. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy. On the next one. I'll see y'all on the next one.